Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at Your Overseas Home. My name is Christopher Nye, Senior Editor at Your Overseas Home and also Spain Property Guides. Today, we will be meeting the three experts you need to help you buy safely in Spain. They're so vital, we call them the Golden Three. It's great to have you all with us today, whether whether live or catching up on demand. And we're delighted to help you on your way to buying a property in Spain. Today's session will be an hour, and if you would like to put your questions to our panel, please do so. Just type your query into the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. And of course, if you need a reminder of anything discussed today, or you want to perhaps share this with family or friends and anybody else buying abroad, perhaps you can persuade one of your siblings or one of your friends to share the cost and buy with you. You can catch up on the Your Overseas Home website to watch at your leisure. So I'm joined by three experts today. The first we're going to be speaking to is Paul Harris from Smart Currency Exchange, sponsors of our webinars. Next up, we'll be talking to Shirin from the Spanish Estate Agent. And then we'll be talking to Emma Belgum, who you may remember from a webinar we did last week from JLCA Solicitors. I will let them introduce themselves individually as we go along, rather than listening to me. So we're going to start off with Paul. So Paul, tell us a little bit about how Smart can help our viewers today with their property purchase.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And good evening, everyone. Thanks very much for attending. So yeah, as Chris mentioned, I'm here representing Smart Currency. A little bit of background about us. So we, as Chris said, are a foreign exchange specialist. We've been in the market for coming up to 20 years now. And over that time, we've helped over 40,000 people in very similar positions to yourselves transfer money internationally, primarily, and where we specialise for the need to purchase property. What our main aim is to keep the costs as low as possible, and we do that through managing the currency risk. So you may have seen, you may be keeping an eye on the markets over the last couple of months. They've been very volatile. Our job is to work with you and make sure we're timing the transaction to the best at the best time for you to make the transaction as cost effective as possible. So if we can time it at a high point in the market, it means that property is going to be a lot cheaper for you. So that's where we're going to help you out.
Yeah, looking at the exchange rate just now, actually. Well, I was looking at it this afternoon. So whether it's changed or not, it's moving up and down so fast. It was looking pretty good though earlier. I think it was a month high. We can lock that in with a forward contract, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's various different products we can offer, but a forward contract is really popular for a property buyer. So, for example, if you're in Spain, you find a property that you fall in love with, agree to sign on the dotted line. There may be around maybe 3 months between when you agree the price and when you actually have to pay for the property. So in that time, you've agreed your price in euros. So that price is going to stay the same. But what will always be changing is how much it's actually going to cost you in pounds sterling. That price will be going up and down dependent on the market. So a forward contract can fix a point in the market for you. So if you're happy with today's exchange rate, we can lock the rate in for you. You don't have to pay for the full contract up front. You pay up to a 10% deposit, and then pay the balance when the contract is due, when you actually need to transfer the money for the purchase. And the reason it's so popular is it just gives you peace of mind. It takes all the risk away of potential market drops, which we've seen happen over the last few months. There's been some significant declines, and they come out of nowhere. So it just gives you that peace of mind that you've fixed your price in euros and you've fixed your price in sterling as well, so your budget is secure.
And in terms of what you're getting for your money at the moment, I know it's all been in the press that the pound has collapsed, But that's not true against the euro. I mean, I'm looking at, yes, it's not as good as we've been getting in our sort of post-vaccine. We had that big boost when we were ahead with the vaccine. But compared to the average post-Brexit, we're looking at a really good rate at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not as good as where we were a few years ago, but we're sort of the 115, 116 mark at the moment, which isn't a bad exchange rate if we're comparing it to the last sort of 12 to 24 months. So yeah, we're not in dire straits. So the press obviously make a big deal about it, but that's largely because there's been a lot of strength for the dollar. So against the dollar, the pound is very weak, but there's lots of extra external factors that are strengthening the dollar that don't have an impact on the pound. So it's not always right to believe the media. It's obviously just best to just have a look yourself and see that we're not actually in a terrible position against the euro.
Yeah, although if there are any Americans watching, congratulations. You're doing very well. Okay. Now, so just thinking about the buying process, with how does that all happen? So the lawyer tells me I have to have my money at a certain place at a certain time. Can you liaise with them, or I don't have to pick up a suitcase of cash? I'm assuming.
No, I mean, all you need to give us is the bank account details, the way the money needs to go. And we just need to. That's what you need to provide us with, the beneficiary details. We obviously provide you with our bank account details. You arrange a bank transfer to us, and we do the rest. We make the international transfer for you. If we're booking a few days in advance, we can get the money there ahead of time, or we can get it there on a set day. And again, like I said, with the forward contract, we can book those contracts up to 12 months in advance, and then obviously have that ready for completion when you need it. So yeah, we will take direction from a customer of when they need the money, and all you need to do is send us the funds.
Okay, now just drilling down a little bit more into that forward contract. I get that it gives you peace of mind because you know that over the 3 months, whatever it takes to buy, you'll end up paying at the same amount. But suppose something goes wrong in that purchase process and it falls through. What happens then?
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. It's not very regular that it happens, pretty rare. But we will always work with a customer that has a contract that's in place. I mean, we would never book a contract with the intention of cancelling it. We would always book a contract with the intention of fulfilling it. And we know that with property purchases, things need to maybe extended, buyers may be in a chain, things may be delayed from contracts, whatever it could be, or the property may fall through. Like I said, in the rare case that will happen, we can roll contracts forward, so we can extend them out. That's something that our traders will be more than happy to do for you. And then also, if you need to completely cancel it, we can do that as well. Just because you've booked in and committed to a contract doesn't mean you have to go through with it. We can cancel that off, and it's a discussion that you can have with your account manager at the time if that's what you need to do.
Okay. Just one more question before we go on to questions for, our other panelists. Why would I go to you rather than one of these online only operations like Wise, or indeed the bank that I've been banking with for the last 30 years?
Okay. So I mean, it's a good question. It's a question we get asked all the time, actually, especially with the new upcoming online providers. So breaking it in half. So I was looking at the online services first. The service level is where we're really going to be of benefit. If you're looking to move small amounts of money and the exchange rate doesn't make it have as much impact, then we're going to be just as good as the online providers. But when you're looking at large sums of money for a property purchase, where we can help is the guidance. We can look at the markets for you and try and time it right for you. If you're online yourself, you're looking at a spot only solution. There's no forward contracts with those companies, but you're also backing your own judgment. So you may watch the markets all the time and you may have an idea of what's going to happen next. No one really knows what's going to happen next, even us. We can't claim to know what the exchange rate's going to do in the next 5 minutes. So you're backing your own judgment there without any real support over the telephone. And then if you are into a contract there and you have any questions further down the line, again, you don't have anyone to talk to. It's very hard to get through to a customer service team with those companies because they are an online provider. So I'd say against the online services, it is, you know, you're getting the extra guidance and the hand holding from ourselves, but we can offer a wider range of products. And compared to the bank, there's a lot of different reasons. I mean, ultimately, the price we're going to offer is going to be much better than the bank. It's always going to be much more competitive. It's going to make the costs a lot lower for you. But again, you could go into a branch, you could speak to the same account bank manager that you've always spoken to, always dealt with. They may not have any experience of foreign exchange. And again, it's not their job to watch the markets all day. It's their job to do lots of other things while they're working in the bank. And then ultimately, again, you're going to be speaking to them. They're going to be putting how much you want to move overseas into a computer. The computer's going to spit out a price, and that's what you get. There's no conversation there. It's just that this is what you get. So all round, the service we're going to offer is always going to be much better, and you know, we can make you feel comfortable with moving larger sums overseas. I think that's the most important thing. When you're moving big sums of money, you want to be comfortable doing it, and confident that you've got the right support.
Okay, great. Well, we have had some questions about currency, but we're going to bring in Shirin, who's going to talk us a little bit about the estate agency part of the process. And I'm very envious because I believe it's very hot where you are on the Costa del Sol. Tell us a little bit about what you do and about you and what you do.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name is Shirin Sharifi. I'm the sales director for the Spanish estate agent here on the Costa del Sol. Our main office is in Estepona. Myself, I've been working in real estate on the Costa del Sol for over 23 years. So I have a big experience in all different aspects of real estate. So hopefully we can talk you through the process of buying a property here, and all this, just explain all the services that we give. We basically talk to our clients at the earliest stages of buying even, and we go through and listen, really try to listen to what it is that they're looking for. We try to have conversations rather than just emails going back and forth with our clients. We act as a property finders. So once we have the criteria of what the client wants, we have access to absolutely every single property that's available on the coast, which is a really important thing for us to get across to our clients. We find properties along the whole coast, and the area that we cover is actually from Malaga to Gibraltar and the inland in between. So we have a team of salespeople. We speak over 7 languages in the office, and our experience is really, really appreciated. So we talk through clients about mortgages, the buying process itself. We talk about buying new properties, old properties, and we really explain to you the cost of buying, the tax implications, all that kind of thing, as well as just the properties themselves. And of course, we act as a little bit as a bit of a tourist guide as well, I suppose, because a lot of our clients don't really know the area as well as we do, and it's that local knowledge that they're looking for as well. So 50% is the actual property itself, and 50% is the area that they're looking at, and the areas that we cover vary quite a bit. So you can be in an area like Benalmádena, where it's really busy, really popular, and so on, where you don't necessarily need a car, or you could be inland where it's very quiet and you're looking for a finca or a farm of some sort. So we have every kind of property you can think of, whether it's, as I say, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment near the beach and so on, or an inland, typical traditional Spanish property with lots of land and olives and vines, or a modern, super high quality type of property, the very contemporary style properties that a lot of people are looking for as well. So we'll go through the whole thing with you, and hopefully
brilliant. Okay, so tell us what's happening in the property market at the moment in Spain.
Well, it's we went through several issues, I suppose, what with Brexit and COVID and so on, but It's interesting with more and more people becoming disillusioned, let's say. Certainly if we're talking about the English clients, a lot of our clients are looking to relocate here. So we're helping them with their residency and all sorts of different issues that come with actually moving rather than just buying a holiday home. And lots of really positive things have happened for us, especially in Andalusia, the area that the Costa del Sol is within. We've had a lot of tax cuts and complete scrapping of certain taxes. Emma will help me explain it a little bit better later, but the wealth tax, for example, has been scrapped completely if you're a resident within Andalusia. That doesn't count the rest of Spain, but in Andalusia that's been scrapped. The wealth tax has also been scrapped. I think it's the €1 million mark. The buying costs have been slashed in terms of the transfer tax has gone, whereas it was on a sliding scale of 8, 9, and 10%. That's all been scrapped and it's down to one level of 7%. So it's a big saving when you're buying a second-hand property. The new properties come with a different tax. So we go through all that with you and the savings that you're making at the moment if you're buying. Andalusia is trying to become the most tax efficient, what we call district, or what you would call county of Spain. And it's really proven very popular at the moment. So, and the Costa del Sol is slightly different because it's not like the rest of Spain. It's not just, it's almost like a bubble. It's got its own bubble, but it was certainly because of the different reasons why people want to move here. And it's almost like the place with everything that's going on in the world, with all the nightmares that are going on around the world. It's almost like where people want to go to because to escape all the negative things that are going on around the world. So we are seeing people from all nationalities. I mean, whether it's obviously we have the weather, we have this amazing weather here, 320 days of sun a year. We have a fantastic infrastructure. We have great schools. We've got great establishments here. So people, we have mountains, we have the sea, we have so much going on here, and it's super safe here as well. So for all those reasons, we've got people coming from all over. And yes, you were right. The American clients have really, really started buying here as well. So our market has become very, very, it's very buoyant at the moment. We're seeing good property sell very fast indeed. Yeah.
Okay. So now, I guess if we're sort of going through the process from the start. So you've spoken to Smart and you've organised your currency, or you know what you're going to get, and you're booking your viewing trip to see you. So can you give us a few tips on the viewing trip? When should we come? Presumably not Sunday because you'll be shut.
We don't mind working on a Sunday. It's the rest of the agents and the rest of the developments and so on that are. But it's kind of nice in a way that adds to the charm of Spain, in that Sunday is still a day where everything is closed. I was having a conversation with my family just recently coming over, and they said, oh, it's really nice that it's still, everything's closed on a Sunday and you have to go out with your family and have lunch and you have to do nice things. But the best days for us is Monday to Friday. And the main reason for that is, even if we do find you a property and we have to do some legal work, which Emma will explain later, and that we have to go to see a notary, we have to do power of attorney, and lawyers don't work weekends. Some do, but the notary certainly doesn't. So we have to do that power of attorney in front of a notary, and that is only normally in the morning until about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So it's a working week, so Monday to Friday, yeah, that would be the best time to come. And obviously, if you want to come for a weekend included in that, that's great, because that's a great chance for you to have a drive around and have a look. But the process would be, we'd agree a date that you were free, and we would accommodate you as best as we can for the days that you are available. But just be aware of that time that we are needing to have with the lawyer and the notary, and of course a bank if we need to see a bank or open bank accounts and things like that. So.
And I guess now it's quite a good time to come because it's quieter, the hotels are empty. But do you open?
Not empty.
No. Well,
You
Well,
have to remember,
as
a lot of people think that our busy season is just the summer season, and obviously for us being further south, our winter season is very, very strong. We have a great golfing community. We have a lot of people coming over for 3 or 4 months to enjoy the weather. We were speaking about that with the elderly Germans being paid to come and spend their winters on the Costa del Sol because of the weather and saving on heating. But we have a very strong winter season as well, but it's very different. Yeah, of course, it's not the crazy holiday season like it is in summer. Yeah, yeah. It's a great time to come. The weather's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's crystal clear. I drive to work in the morning and I'm literally looking at the Mediterranean, but I can see Gibraltar clearly and Africa as well. So it's a really, really nice time to come.
Okay, so you're coming out on your viewing trip now, Emma. Firstly, if you could just say a little bit about yourself and your company. Do you cover all of Spain, for example? And then tell us, from a legal point of view, what one should be doing at the start of that property buying journey when you're planning your first viewing trip.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Well, to start off with, JLCA Lawyers, we're a Spanish legal firm. We've been operating for more than 20 years, specifically Spanish law. I myself am based in the main Alicante office. We also have offices in Madrid and in the UK in London, and also in the States in Miami. That's a very large market for us as well. We cover all areas of law, not just the extrajudicial, as we would refer to it, the property purchase, residency, inheritance, but also have full civil and criminal departments. And additionally, we do have a multilingual team speaking a large number of languages. And we always try as well to have a sort of a native aspect to this, so that when we're explaining things to clients, it's not just a case of translating, it's interpreted into something that you'll understand, because that's the most important thing when you're buying in Spain, when you're coming from another country and making such a big change, is that you fully understand everything that's happening from start to finish, which is very, very important to us. In terms of where we work, we cover the whole of Spain, and that also does include the Balearic and the Canary Islands for all of the work that we do. And in addition to that, we would say exactly the same as Shirin has said. From our point of view, the earlier that you start talking to us is the better. It's always good to get that relationship with a client right at the very beginning to understand the whole aspect of everything that they want to do. Because it's one thing just buying the property, but it's finding the right area for you, the right type of property for you, which obviously you're going to be relying on your estate agents like Shirin. But then you need to be thinking in terms of, are you buying it for a holiday home? Are you buying it for an investment? Are you buying it with the intention of permanently moving? Are you going to be doing it all together? Which type of residency is going to fit you? There's so many questions. For example, as well, when you're looking at a property and you're thinking in terms of renting it out, to make sure that it is actually viable for the tourist license, that you can actually use the property for what you want to use it for, and getting all of these things, all of these ducks in a row right at the very beginning and talking about them, it makes it much easier then when you're coming out on your viewing trip. You already know the questions that you want to ask. You're very clear about that, and each of the stages after that follow a lot more simply. As I say, understanding the process is the most important thing, and talking about all the different aspects and having a conversation about what your entire plans are makes that so much easier.
And if we're looking to move to Spain, as third country residents, non-EU, can you help with that as well?
Absolutely. We give all of the different residency options. There are, as people are very, very much aware, different options depending on if you're retiring here. There's a lot of discussion at the moment in terms of people that want to be teleworking because they're working on the new digital nomad, which hasn't come out yet. There are some people that have gained European passports through family, sometimes Irish. I've had some that have got Cypriot, and then we're able to process that as a European residency within Spain. A lot of them have to be processed from the UK. The non-lucrative visas, the golden visa, can be done from either. We're expecting the digital nomad will need to. So again, these are reasons that it's important to talk about it beforehand, so that you get your timeline correct for when your application goes in as to when you're actually going to be living in Spain. And things like the European residency, when you're applying for that, you have to have the padron in place beforehand. So it's not a case of turn up, I now want to be resident and I'm at the end of my stay, because you have to have had that in place for a couple of months. So all of this planning beforehand means that we can put you on the right visa, if that's the case, and make sure that your timeline's correct, so all your documentation is ready at the right time.
Okay. Now, at Spain Property Guides, I know we were talking about the new digital nomad visa, which means you can go and work there. We were talking about stopping inheritance tax. It's almost like, despite Brexit, the Spanish authorities still really want us to go and live there, isn't it? So it's not impossible. And I know that we've seen the numbers of retirees going down quite a lot, but it's clearly not impossible to go and retire to Spain.
From our point of view, we're having quite a lot of retirees that are coming, still coming over in the Alicante area in particular, where I am. We've been processing quite a few over the last few months. It's still a very viable option because the cost of living is lower over here. Obviously, it's a little prohibitive to start with, the amount of means that people have to start off with. But between savings and pensions, most of the time, a lot of people can actually reach that.
Okay, so let's just go in order. So let's just start off with holiday home people. So just explain a little bit about the 90 and 180 days rule.
Okay.
How does that work? What do we need to know?
All you need to think of is that it's those blocks. It's not cumulative. It's specifically those blocks. So whichever day that you arrive in Spain starts a clock of 180 days, and then you can spend any amount of time up to 90 days within that 180 block. Once you've reached the 90, you do have to leave, and you can't return until the 180 block is completed. But then following that, it can be the day after, it can be 4 months later, you will then restart the clock once again on a new set of 180 days that you can again do your 90. So it's important to think you've just got 90 in 180 days, and it's not accumulative. So you just work on those 180 blocks. You can sort of time them to try and pull them together. For example, if you work out where your first day is going to be and have a couple of days in Spain, and then have all of the rest at the end, perhaps have one quick trip outside of the Schengen area for a day or two, come back and then enjoy the rest of it, so you can have a big block together. It's one of the sort of tricks that people are trying to use to accumulate as much as possible together. So you can do that with one trip out and get most of the 6 months together if you time it right.
Okay, and now moving on to if you want to retire there. So tell me about the minimum income requirement.
Okay, it's based on IPREM, the amounts that they believe that you need in order to support yourself. So for a single applicant, it's based on 567 something per person per month. So for an applicant, it works out around 27,500 euros that you need to show for the year. So that would either be savings, investments, pensions, or a mixture of those, to show that that is what you would have over the year. And you do need to be able to show that you've got that for each of the renewals. So the normal renewal for a non-lucrative visa, for example, would be 1 year, 2 years, 2 years, and then 5 years. So you'll need to be able to support those means each time you do a renewal. But it's just the first time that it's a really big process. Following that, you're actually able to do it from Spain, and it's much quicker and simpler than the initial application. Oh, and adding people then, of course, with a married couple coming over, for example, you're not expected to have 27,000 each. There is 400% for the main applicant, 100% for the person that's attached to it. So it works out about 36,000 between the two of them.
Okay, that's quite a lot of money compared to other countries, but okay, but it's not impossible. I would hope for most people, and it can be savings, as you point out. Paul, just one thing I've always wondered: how do I get my my pension to my state pension if I'm retired to Spain, but also do you have a kind of cost-effective system of getting other regular income over to Spain?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's a regular amount, so let's say every month you're looking to transfer over the pension over, or an income that you're earning in the UK and you're in Spain, or whichever way, vice versa, we have what's called a regular payments plan. So works very simply. So we can book it up to, if you wanted to have that a rate fixed every month, you can guarantee a rate for up to 12 months. We book it essentially as one big forward contract, and you chip away at that. So you know that if you're getting a fixed pension sum in the UK, that's going to give you the same amount of euros each month. Or alternatively, we can transfer it at whatever the exchange rate is on the day. So again, you just arrange for the money to come into us, and we transact it into euros. You can do that either way as well. So if you're buying a holiday home and you're renting it out, and you're getting a regular rental income, you can do it back the other way as well. So we can work either side. So it can go euro sterling or sterling euro. Okay,
brilliant. Shirin, tell us, once we've come on our viewing trip and we like the property, firstly, is there any wiggle room on prices at the moment? And secondly, if we're making an offer, what's the process?
So the process would be, we've had a look around, we've found the property we want, and on a resale property, not a new off-pan or a new property direct from a developer, it's very, very unusual for them to take any offers, first of all. On a second-hand property or resale property, we can make offers. The market being as it is at the moment, we list properties at the best price that we can to make them as attractive as possible. But in terms of offers, some people say to me, "Oh, I hear I can make offers of more than 10% off the asking price." That really isn't reality. It really isn't reality. If it's a certain property and I get a background to the owner's situation and we can get the best deal, obviously we're there to work for you. And we do try to get you the best deal possible. But yeah, the offers can be made, but a lot of properties are selling at asking price. The other thing that's, as I said, good properties sell very quickly. I had some clients that we could only view the property on one day where they had 6 other appointments. We were number 5 in the queue, and we saw it. They offered asking price. Unfortunately, the price had been pushed up over asking price. So it went from 565,000 and it eventually sold to my clients for 600,000. But yeah, it's the way we work makes it really good for our clients, because we have access to absolutely every single property. We network with the other agents on your behalf. So when you're doing your viewing trip and you're organizing it, we organize everything for you. We work together to get those properties in a shortlist, but we organize it for you. And so we are the ones that are listening to your feedback, your honest feedback on every single property, and getting a good idea of what you don't like and do like. You're not having to deal with hundreds of different agents. You're not being called and being pulled in different directions by different agents. So when I get that time with you, I can really understand what it is that you're looking for and really negotiate hard on your behalf, because you're my client, not the vendor. So it kind of works really well for our buying clients in that respect. Yeah.
You say that you're so who's paying your fees? Am I as the buyer, or does it come off the vendor?
It does come from the vendor, but we feel that because we have you as your client, we are working on your behalf in terms of finding the property and negotiating. But the difference, people sometimes say to me, "Oh, yeah, but you're paid by the vendor, so therefore you're working for them." We're not. Most of the time, the property is actually listed by a different agent. So we are very much your representative against the vendor's representative and trying to get you the best deal possible. As I say, the strength of the market at the moment does mean that there's not huge amounts, to be negotiated, and sometimes we're fighting off other buyers as well. So we have to make you the most attractive buyers in that sense. When that happens, but often, yeah, we will try to get that property down, because we want the feel-good factor for you. We want you to go away happy, and we want you to hopefully recommend your friends as well. So.
Absolutely. Okay. And I would assume that living on the Costa del Sol, there's a good rental market, and I know that quite a lot of clients will be thinking, okay, we can rent it out when we're not there. What should people who intend doing that know from a legal and an estate agency point of view?
Well, Emma touched on it earlier on. The property has to have a tourist license. If you want to rent it out short term, if you want to rent it out long term, that doesn't apply, I believe, Emma. And so for short term, you have to have this tourist license where you have to jump through a few hoops to get it, and there is a cost involved, but Emma can help you do that. It's things like air conditioning, Wi-Fi, some safety aspects and so on. That there's a list of things that the property has to have. And the other thing it must have is a first occupation license, I believe, Emma. Is that correct? Yeah. And this is the first occupation license is just the final license that the developer gets to say that the property is, all the dimensions are correct and safety aspects are all fine. That has to be in place to get a short-term license. So that's really important for clients to know.
And is that massively onerous, or is it something? Is it an afternoon?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, Emma will tell you it really is just a matter of handing in paperwork and getting a stamp, and it's just, yeah.
The additional thing just on that is it depends on the different areas, specifically if the town hall allows for that type of rental to go on, and more importantly, if you're part of a community of owners, that the statutes of that don't prohibit you from being able to do so. For example, if you've got a place that is much more residential, there may be something in there that says that you can't be doing weekly rentals because they don't want people coming in and out where it is a mostly residential area. These are the sort of things you can sort of have a look at a little bit beforehand and have in mind.
Yeah.
And different town halls and regions treat it differently. So it's a case of, and this is something that we do for people, is go into these different bodies to make sure what the conditions are for the property, and then making the application, which goes through the authorities to get the actual certificate then. And it is important because there's places like Airbnb, for example, they will ask you for a copy of that license when they're registered, when they're listing your property.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about this community of homeowners. Was that the phrase?
Yeah.
Presumably, is that one of the kind of things that we need to know about when we're buying, because you don't want to find those restrictive clauses? I guess Spain doesn't have leasehold and freehold like we have, but are there other issues that we should be thinking of, Emma, when we're buying?
The owners' communities, homeowners and associations, I suppose we do have the equivalent in the UK in private managed estates, for example. But what you're talking about generally, it's the community of owners is a group of statutes put together for managing the community, the communal areas. If you think about it, when you're buying a property that has got a communal pool, that has got communal areas that everybody shares, then all of those people in the urbanisation are part of that community and have a say. And there are fees for managing those services, providing the lights, providing other services within that, cleaning and such. So it's kind of a management association and has fees attached to it. And I'm sure Shirin will say, when you're looking at a property, that is one of the things that they can tell you about, what sort of management fees are attached to that property, because it's something that's fixed and is ongoing.
Yeah, when we send you property information, it normally has three different costs that you'll have ongoing on the property. One is the community fees, and the other one is the local council tax, as we call it in England. It's called IBI. That's a yearly payment. We normally give you that figure as a yearly payment. And the other one, sometimes there's a small payment for rubbish collection. So for Benavis, for example, where I live, it's 18 euros a year. Doesn't matter the size of your house or your property, it's 18 euros a year. So it's just this payment we have to make. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I'm coming over on that viewing trip that I'm still imagining myself on, I am, and I like the property, what am I going to have to put down to secure it?
Okay, so we've agreed the price. and both parties are obliged to sign a reservation contract, and the buyer will then pay it's either €6,000 or 1% of the sales price, whichever is higher. And that is held in an escrow account until both lawyers can do the conveyancing. And the buyer's lawyer, most importantly, can get all the legal paperwork on the property and study to see if everything is legal, if it has all the licenses it should have, if there's any debts on the property, if anything that is not legally correct with the property that cannot be resolved before completion, then if there is, then your money is obviously refunded. If everything's okay, you go ahead. Then you go to the next stage, which is signing of the private purchase contract, where you pay 10% minus the reservation fee you've already paid. And then you go to completion on an agreed date. If you need to get a mortgage, sometimes that's a little bit longer. If it's a cash purchase, then it can be quite a quick turnaround. So that's normally the process, and all the taxes are paid at the end.
Okay, sure. And on that €6,000 deposit, would that be something that you could help us with, Paul, or I'd be better just doing that on my credit card?
Yeah, absolutely. That's if you're in country and you need the money over there quickly, just you can give us a call. We can get the money over. If it's early in the day, we can get it there often the same day, if not the next working day. So yeah, even if it's just the deposit amount, just, give us a call. Or we have an online app that you can do on your phone, and it's super quick to use that as well. So yeah, we even though it's a smaller amount, it'll still save you money using us.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really safe way of doing it. Just to cut in, but it is a really safe way of doing it, because once that reservation form is signed and the payment, the property won't come off the market unless that reservation fee is paid.
Yeah.
It is a really safe way of doing it, because you can't be gazumped in price because you're locked into a formal contract, and it gives you that time to actually put together your finances and so on, rather than worrying that the property is going to be sold in the time that you're doing all that, or getting all your paperwork together, or whatever it is that you need to do. But yeah, it's a safe way of not losing the property.
Does it mean we avoid the dreaded chain that we all suffer from in the
We
UK?
get very few chains here.
Right.
We get very few chains here, and therefore, because a deposit is paid, and we very rarely see sales collapse because somebody can't. People are only going to pay a deposit if they're very sure they can complete.
Okay, Emma, if you could just very briefly talk us through the buying process. Sort of
repeating with what Shireen has said. I mean, just in more detail.
Well,
yes.
What should I be worried about signing, I suppose, is the question.
It's to say, from our point of view, and obviously we are solicitors, so we will always be looking at it from that point of view, which is to have a solicitor be with you along these steps. The deposit, as Shireen said, is quite typically around €6,000 or a percentage, but that's more for the cost of Del Sol. It's more typical between 3,000 and 6,000 a bit further up the coast on that initial deposit. Obviously there's differences in every autonomous region, this is the thing, but it is always the same. First of all, you're talking about the holding deposit, and that is so that the property comes off of the market, you fix the price, and some initial conditions. Then you start checking all of the different pieces of paperwork, not just for the property, but also with the local town halls, make sure there's no infractions, make sure that the habitation certificate, the cedula, the second occupation license, whichever is going to be applicable, is in place. And then move towards the deposit contract or private purchase contract. And this is the point that we would, as lawyers, be sticking on, because it is very important that the clauses within that contract are correct and in favour of the person that's purchasing the property, because they are binding to notary. So if there are specific clauses that there isn't paperwork, a particular piece of paperwork isn't quite right, or that some particular piece of work needs to be done or completed or registered before the sale, it needs to be written into that contract and ensure that that is going to be the case on the final purchasing, and otherwise allowing you to pull out of the sale with your money back. I mean, this is the importance of having that contract absolutely right. we would always say before you sign something, obviously a reservation where you're just paying a deposit and agreeing a price is fine. But normally if you've got anything with detail, that our lawyers would want to have a quick look at it before you sign anything, just to be absolutely sure.
We would normally send the reservation form to the lawyers to have a look at over. It's a very standard form. You've probably seen it 100 times anyway, but obviously we have to include things like parking space, furniture, if there's any furniture included, or anything that's specific to that property. We have to make sure that's included. And of course, we would always pass it to your lawyer first.
Okay. Now, what about surveys? Is it the done thing to have a survey done in Spain, and how easy is that?
Well,
or
surveys
do you do instead?
I don't know about you, Emma. I mean, obviously surveys are mainly done on individual independent properties on a apartment block or townhouses in a community. That we very rarely do surveys on those sort of properties. But yeah, sorry.
It's actually a question I've been asked quite a lot recently. First of all, there's kind of a difference between how properties are checked and such. A lot of the newer properties have already got existing warranties on the structure and such, so people don't tend to worry about it so much. Except then you're looking at older properties. And what you can always do, and we've done this for people in the past, is on an individual basis, where an architect can actually go in and do a full survey on the property for you, and charge appropriate for that. But just to say, more recently, I've had a lot more people asking me about just rather than a full structural survey, just a building survey. So when somebody wants to have a look at these and do those, it's not a problem to arrange. Again, we can do that.
Okay. Now, so I've organised my currency exchange with Paul. I know how much I'm going to have to pay, and I've made sure, and I have I've gone from Shireen. I know that I have to pay pretty much the full asking price. Now, okay, but my next question is, how much should I be budgeting for on top of the property price? So if I've seen a lovely house for €200,000, how much should I be budgeting, finding extra for taxes and lawyers' fees and so on?
Emma, I know it's different in our two regions, but do you want, if you answer that, and then I can the difference in our region, but you know that.
Unmute first. Exactly, it depends on the autonomous region. Basically, what you're going to be looking at, irrespective of which part of Spain that you're in, you are going to be paying the purchase. But if you're talking resale, because obviously resale and off-plan have a different structure. For resale, you're going to be paying the property price plus the transfer tax. The transfer tax is what varies between different regions. As has been mentioned before, in Andalusia, in the Costa del Sol, that is 7% of the property price. In the Comunidad Valenciana, it's 10%. If you go to the Canary Islands, it's 6.5%. Each of the different ones has got a different percentage that is applied, and that is added to the property price. And then on top of that, you've got your registry and notary fees. And we'd always say as well, having a provision of funds in terms of initial expenses, such as setting up your electricity and water and such. I don't like using percentages as in add a percent onto your purchase price, because it's very specific on the type of property and where you've purchased. So what we would normally do when we speak to a client is what are you looking to buy, where are you looking to buy, what are you interested in, and then we give them a breakdown specific to what they're actually looking at.
Okay, lovely.
It is. I think for people, it's some of the costs are fixed, aren't they, Emma? So you can't give percentages. But just to help people work it out quickly for them, and certainly in our area, we would say for a resale property, for absolutely everything, because you have to apply for NIE numbers sometimes for clients and things like that as well that add to the cost. And so we always say budget for 10%, and then you've absolutely covered everything for a second-hand property. Because for a new development, obviously, for us, it's 7% for resale. For a new development, it's 10% VAT plus 1.2% stamp duty. So that's the difference between the new and old in terms of costs. But obviously, there's advantages for buying new as well that counteract that sometimes. So.
The other thing to take into account, of course, is if they're using a Spanish mortgage to purchase, because that changes the costs as well. A few years ago, the legislation changed so that you effectively now have 2 notary visits in order to have a Spanish mortgage. The first one is to sign the mortgage conditions. The second one is to do the purchase, which has to be a couple of weeks following that. So you're adding more costs because you've got 2 visits, plus obviously you have the notarized mortgage deed as well as the normal purchase. So this is again why I just prefer, let's break it down exactly with your conditions, because the variations are there.
Okay, great. Now, I think we've pretty much gone through the whole process to the end. So I just want to go back and go through some of the questions that have been asked. So Tony has a question for Paul. I've heard about setting upper and lower rates. When would you use this strategy rather than a forward contract?
Setting up at a lower rate. Not sure where.
Would this be like an order to buy or something where you sort of lock in? You say, right, if it goes that low, just buy it for me.
Yes, so if that's what the question is, yeah, certainly. So we've got the spot contract and the forward contract where you're actually agreeing into something. We've got 2 types of orders. So we have an order to call and an order to buy. And exactly right. So you can target a set rate that's slightly higher than where we are now, or have a bottom line that if it goes below this rate, if it hits this rate, then just book regardless. Again, that can protect you against sort of a lower side, but also you can target a high side. With orders, we can never guarantee getting to the top point, but obviously it can be a popular product, and certainly, yeah, if you set a lower end, it can be really helpful in markets like we've had recently.
Okay, another one I think for you from Nilesh. Are there any fees transferring from the smart account to the beneficiary?
Well, any bank charges we absorb anyway for you, so there shouldn't be any fees. Like I said, we don't charge you a fee either, but because we're transferring, if it's in Europe, we're transferring from a European bank, so there shouldn't be any fees. Okay.
Another question from Nilesh. I think this is one for Emma. If we're thinking about retiring to Spain, how can we overcome the 180 day rule?
That would be applying for the non-lucrative visa.
Yeah. Okay.
Basically.
So
unfortunately there's no interim. You're either non-resident, 180 days, or resident. And there's different options for people depending on what they're doing. For example, the non-lucrative visa requires that you're in Spain for a minimum of 183 days. There's the golden visa. If somebody is applying for that, then they have a minimum of 1 day a year. And if they're less than 183 days, they can remain fiscally resident in the UK, for example.
I suppose in the what we might call the good old days, which I won't call the good old days, but in the days before Brexit, people just sort of came over and hung out in Spain, didn't they? They'd sort of come and go, and they'd live there for however many days they wanted. There must be advantages now, although there's a bureaucratic process. There must be advantages, presumably, for both the person and the country, if such affairs are regularized.
You would think so. We'd like to see things getting easier. I mean, once you are a resident in Spain, I mean, this is the thing. It does open up the rest of the Schengen Europe area to somebody. So it is advantageous to get your residency, because then you've got more freedom within the rest of Europe as well. Because the 90 and 180 days, don't forget, doesn't just apply to Spain. It is the total that you spend in the whole of the Schengen area. Yeah.
Okay. A question from Tony. Question for Emma. On a typical apartment purchase, it's quite a long question. On a typical apartment purchase, aside from the service charge, are there any typical terms in the contract about ad hoc expenditure, such as repairs budget, major refurb, and any limits on expenditure and the decision-making process for major capital expenditure? So I guess what Tony's worried about is he buys an apartment on a complex in Spain, and suddenly he's got to buy a new roof, or they've got to replace they've got to resurface the golf course or something. Can that happen?
Well, it sort of two sides to that, whether it's something specifically with the property itself, in which case is the building guarantees and such sufficient to cover those, and your own insurance. On the more extreme cases, if you're talking about hidden defects, then that is something that could be followed up separately. On the other hand, if you're talking about the community itself, where they've got major works planned in the future, which may be pre-budgeted that you're not aware of, we can actually check those things with the community owners beforehand, so that you know that.
Okay, thank you. Now, okay, the last of our questions, unless we've got another one. I am French living in the UK. Would it be easier for my partner, who is British, and I to be married in order to buy together in Spain?
So one has the French passport, the other one British passport. Quick answer is yes, it actually is. My colleague in the office is wondering if she should set up a marriage bureau or something, because of the amount of times this comes up. A registered civil partnership also is sufficient, but in order to be recognised as a joint application for visa, you would need to be married or a civil partnership. They don't, common law, even though you may have been living together for 20, 30, 40 years, isn't recognised due to be seen as individual applicants. So financially speaking, if you wanted to do a joint application, it is better to be either married or have a registered civil partnership at this point.
Okay. Just a sort of general question. If I'm coming to buy a property in late October, how soon is it likely that I would be able to be in my house?
Are you talking in terms of just the purchasing, or you mean as a resident
Yes.
wanting to come to live? Just to purchase?
I think the legal no, I think the legal process.
Well, I think Shirin could probably say that. I mean, I would say anywhere from a month, 2 months is quite typical. Obviously, if you've got specific conditions where you are planning to actually move out to Spain a couple of months later, and you negotiate with the owner, you can extend that. So it's down to the buyer and the seller exactly how long it is, but you can certainly do it within a couple of months without any issue.
The completion date is actually part of the negotiations. So, if we're talking price, it's not just the price that we're negotiating on. We're actually negotiating whether they can complete in the same time frame the vendor can, and so on. So we have to really use that. It's used as part of the negotiation. Of course, if you're getting a mortgage, that does take a bit more time as well, because obviously the bank is then involved and they have to do all their paperwork that banks do, and that will add a bit. But yeah, if it's a cash purchase, for example, then it can be, and everything's okay with the property, then it can be as quickly as the lawyers can move and do the documentation.
Okay. Well, so you can be in by Christmas. I mean, it's faster in fact in Spain than in lots of countries, because I know that.
Yeah. The only other thing that can delay things a little bit here is that you have to get the NIE number to go to completion, and the getting an appointment to get those NIE numbers is because it's so busy. So we just have to plan ahead to get that NIE number in place for you before completion. So,
well, I think in the olden days, when I used to come and help people buy in Spain, we used to try and do that on one of the viewing trips. Do you still try and do that? And in which case, what paperwork do you need?
Emma, we normally do power of attorney with you, the lawyers, and then the lawyers would go off and get the NIE numbers for the clients. But
yeah, it's easier that way. As Shirin just said, getting appointments short notice is extremely difficult right now. If you turned up and thought you could get an appointment next week, in most cases that's not going to be possible. Only in the extremes. So our preference is to do a power of attorney, which will be for the purchase, including clauses to do the NIE number, and then we can do it in the background for you to make sure that you've got it there in plenty of time before the final signing, which is when when the number's actually needed. Or in some cases, we do it even before they've even started looking for a property, because there's no issue with having an NIE number in place beforehand when you're looking at the first stages. Say, for example, I've got clients that are planning to do the non-lucrative visa at the moment, and then once they've done that, they're coming over here, and then they're going to settle and start looking for a property, because you can rent over here doing that. So we're arranging the NIE number beforehand, because in Spain, obviously, you do need the NIE number for the purchase itself. But if you're living in Spain, you need that number irrespective of whether you're a property owner, because it's your fiscal representation for your taxes. You'll need it for buying a car, renting a car. As a resident, they'll be asking for it. So it's a useful thing, not just for the purchase, but for somebody that wants to live in Spain.
Okay, we've actually run out of time. We're still getting questions coming in, but we will give you the contact details of our panelists, so you can contact them directly. Because we could be talking about this stuff all day, and funnily enough, we do have all day to talk about it, because it's our big event of the autumn coming up on the Saturday, the 12th of November. Your Overseas Home Virtual, where we have a whole day of events and seminars and one-to-ones and roundtables, so you can be chatting with an estate agent, and she can be showcasing her properties, and she can be recommending a property there. And on your other screen or on your phone, you can be looking at Google and just having a look at the area. All the advantages of an online show, because you can just do it from the comfort of your own home. So it's all free. It's on the 12th of November, a Saturday, from 8 until 4, and you can register at the button, which hopefully you can see on your screen. I want to give a big final thanks to our panelists, Paul, Shirin, and Emma, for all their fantastic tips and advice. My own advice would be to get in touch with them directly to discuss your requirements in detail. Thank you for watching this session. We've got plenty more information on the Your Overseas Home website or the Spain Property Guides website. Other webinars, guides, and so on. So on that note, I will say thanks again to our panelists, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Bye.